closing costs are expensive. In this video, we're gonna talk about how to lower them. So, closing costs. The national average of closing costs is 2% to 6% of the loan amount. So if you're borrowing $300,000, 2% of that to 6% of that, do the math on that. That's a lot of money that you need for closing. And there's ways to fortunately lower them, and we're gonna talk about that today. So one of the first ways to lower closing costs is concessions. So concessions is seller note net proceeds put towards the buyer that can be used for closing costs, can be used to lower your interest rate by buying it down. There's many different ways you can use it, but a very common way to use it is to help the buyer with closing costs. So maybe one way to go about it is maybe you go higher above the asking price when buying a house to potentially cover all of your closing costs. That's one way to go about it. And maybe you have leverage in the situation, like maybe for instance, you're dealing with a for sale by owner that doesn't have as many people interested in the house, and you have an upper leg on them with negotiation power, and on that maybe you get perfect at their asking price and max out your closing costs. You never know. You never know what scenario you could be in when it comes to leverage. So if you have the leverage, might as well go for it, because if you get it, that's amazing, because that's a lot of money in closing costs that can really add up on someone that may not have it, or if they do have that money, could be tight on money as soon as you get the house. So there's many different scenarios. And inspection credit. So let's just say you run through, your inspection, you're in your contingency, and something pops up and it's a $1,100 repair. Well, now you can ask the seller to give you concessions for $1,100 to lower your closing costs. Because if it's something that, you can fix 6 months from now, but it's also red flaggy enough to where, you can walk away because it's still kind of a problem, you can ask for that. And depending on your situation, you can have a lot of leverage, because the seller may be out of there already, the seller may be moving, they just can't afford to put property back on the market, and also don't want to do it again. So if you go for it, you have the leverage, you ask for the inspection credits, you might be able to get it. Or maybe the seller doesn't want to repair XYZ problem, and it could just be easier to get a credit. Sweet, awesome. Now your closing costs could potentially be lowered. That's amazing. Another way to lower closing costs is there's lots of programs out there with assistance, and one of them, if you're a first-time home buyer, is there are first-time home buyer programs, and that's something that you would speak with your lender about if you qualify. And it is for first-time home buyers. That helps out with closing cost assistance and also some down payment assistance. So that's one thing to see if you qualify. If you make too much money, you can't qualify. But if you fall in that range, it would be an amazing program to take advantage of, especially if you're a first-time home buyer looking to buy your first property. So that's one thing to do. Another thing is maybe you have an employee program. Like I know some banks, they help out their employees by giving lower interest rates on loans, maybe help out with closing costs. So there's many different companies that are generous towards that, and that could just see something to check with your employer. Maybe you have something like that. But I know this video is very, very short, but closing costs are expensive. There are ways to go about it, and it comes in the form of concessions, and there's more than this, but these are the three that I chose. Concessions, some programs, and one of them is a first-time home buyer program, and also maybe have some employee programs. But this one is pretty huge, it's concessions, because if you have a lot of leverage, you can use it to your advantage and potentially help you out with a big chunk of change needed at closing. And it's always good to know, maybe just go for it, because if you get it, you get it. If you don't. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Have a good one. Bye.